Last week, we talked about how President Biden's job approval numbers have been slipping, though still above water.
In a recent Quinnipiac survey, Biden's job approval came in at 46%, down from 49% in May, and his handling of COVID is taking a dive, down from 65% to 53%.
We have new presidential job approvals number to dive into from the Hill-HarrisX. Let's take a look.
Now, while our economy is far from complete, and while we doubtlessly will have ups and downs along the way as we continue to battle the Delta surge of COVID, what is indisputable now is this: the Biden plan is working, the Biden plan produces results, and the Biden plan is moving the country forward. America can beat the Delta variant, just as we beat the original COVID-19. We can do this. So wear a mask where recommended. Get vaccinated today. All of that will save lives.
Biden's approval numbers have slipped from 59% to 55%, the lowest on record yet from Hill-HarrisX.
62% of voters approve of Biden on his handling of COVID, down from the high 60s we've been seeing from the start of his term.
While Biden's approval numbers have slipped, he's still above water on most issues except immigration. 46% of voters approve of the president's handling of the U.S.-Mexico border, down from 49%.
Well, this comes as no surprise. The Biden-Harris administration has had a crisis on the border brewing since January, and they've done virtually nothing to actually address it. And at a time when we're dealing with a global pandemic and the spread of the virus within the United States, allowing migrants to enter the country without proper vaccinations, without proper mitigation tactics, risk spreading the virus into the country. And, you know, they sent Vice President Harris down to meet with the Northern Triangle countries, but we've seen no real effort to curb what is both a humanitarian crisis, could be a national security one, and certainly a public health crisis.
What's interesting is that despite all of that, he's only down -8 on immigration, 54, 46. And I would quibble with whether or not they've done anything. The border system was dismantled by the Trump administration, and there were also, and there's been a lot of reporting on this. None of this is controversial, but particularly as a result of COVID, the number of beds that were made available to migrants in particular facilities was vastly diminished. And so, what the administration has had to do since then is open up giant new facilities to handle this kind of new surge that has come across the border and has only kept up. We're seeing migration at levels that is kind of practically unprecedented for this sustained amount of time. And it might be fun for people to to blame one particular party or another over it, but I think what we're looking at are really structural drivers that are pushing people out of these Central American countries and up here. And this is going to be a new normal. It's not anything you can fix overnight. And I don't think the American people actually expect it to be fixed overnight. Kim, what's your read on it?
I don't know. Maybe they do. I mean, his approval ratings are going down, his disapproval ratings are going up. So maybe people were expecting some sort of overnight quick fixes on these things. I think that's unrealistic. I thought that was unrealistic even under the Trump administration. I trying to be fair to both of them. But, a virus is difficult to control. The border situation is also very, very difficult, especially when we are seeing huge surges of people showing up to that border because of the economic collapse of many of these countries due to the shutdowns. So, look, it's a tough situation for any president to be in. I don't think it's just Biden. I think anybody sitting in that seat right now would have low ratings because there are no quick fixes to these problems, especially while we're still in the pandemic. And people wanted to move on with their lives, and now they're being told, oh, no, we're having to reel back into more of these measures. And so, I don't think these numbers are going to be a surprise to anyone. Now, if things continue to go downhill, this will spell trouble for the midterms, maybe into 2024.
Well, just one quick point, not to hone in too much on the border issue, but that is where he's seen a more dramatic drop. I completely agree that this is a systemic issue that has plagued many administrations, and we have to look at actually solving it long term. But I'd push back on the notion that this is a result of a lack of beds from the Trump administration. So I toured the Donna facility in Texas with Vice President Pence 2 years ago when we were having our version of a crisis at the border. Significantly fewer migrants than we're seeing now on average per month. Recent pictures released by Fox News show that facility overrun, where you have people sleeping on the floor, wearing foil blankets, not socially distanced, more crowded than I'd ever seen it previously, and you have unaccompanied minors. This is a humanitarian crisis. We need to care about it regardless of who's in the White House, whether it's an R or a D. We need to deal with it, and frankly, I don't think this White House is doing enough.
And no doubt that there's a huge surge that that has been sustained since the election, really, and we're now seeing a transformation in the character of the unaccompanied migrants, in the sense that throughout migration history, really, when unaccompanied children would come to the border, they almost universally had the name and often the number of a relative who was in the United States. And then the way the system is designed to work is that once there's been a quick check done, that child is then united with the person who's in the family while they await their proceeding, their immigration proceedings. They can make their case for asylum or whatever case they want to make through the process. That's how that goes. What they're now seeing on the border, which is unprecedented, is an extraordinary number of unaccompanied minors who don't have any family connection in the United States. Which is a result, I think, of the complete kind of social fabric collapse in Central America, and which we're seeing around the globe, but particularly in those countries, which is then creating a system where what do you do with these unaccompanied minors? You don't have anywhere to send them, and the only place you do have to send them is into our broken foster care system, which takes a lot longer to move them through. Meanwhile, you're seeing hundreds a day coming into the facilities, which is how you get them bursting at the seams like that, and then setting them up in a way where you can be confident that they're going to be decently taken care of and protected. Can't also be done overnight, but
it's a deeply complicated issue that will never be solved on purely partisan grounds, and it's going to become a political football back and forth that never gets solved if we're not willing to work together. And
one thing we can say about all of this is that compared to Kamala Harris, Joe Biden is doing swimmingly. So there's a trio of disappointing approval numbers for Vice President Harris have Democrats worried. According to The Hill, in the Real Clear Politics average, her unfavorable numbers came in at 46%, up 3 from Biden's 43%. We'll have our own HarrisX approval numbers to go over tomorrow. But the immigration question, relates to this. Whenever Biden has had an issue that is difficult for him, he did this on gun rights. He did this on the border, and he also did this on voting rights. When something is politically toxic for him, Kim, he hands it off to Kamala Harris. It's like, here, take one more cement block and go for a nice little swim here.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not something that a lot of us really anticipated. I mean, a lot of us thought that Kamala Harris would for sure be the successor to Joe Biden, and she would end up being the person that they would want to be president. But now it just looks like they're using her as the scapegoat. And they're like, okay, you deal with it because nobody likes you. So we're going to just go ahead and let them like you even less, unfortunately for her.
Well, I will tell you, it is a long and tried, sort of thing that we've seen in politics where the president gives some of the unwanted tasks to the vice president. I remember Vice President Pence infamously being given looking at election fraud right after the 26th election. We ended up folding that commission shortly after. So this is a nonpartisan thing and something we've seen quite a bit of. And
you know who learned it firsthand? Joe Biden. Barack Obama gave him the border, in fact. Anytime Obama had a sticky, difficult, politically toxic problem, he handed it off to Joe Biden.
Well, you know who I think is happy to see those things be handed to Kamala Harris is Mayor Pete over in Navy Yard at the Department of Transportation. He's happy to be working on infrastructure and transportation needs, not dealing with the border crisis.
He sure is. Yep. So thank you for watching What America's Thinking, and we will see you next time.